Welcome back to another episode of Out of Home Insider, the loudest voice in out of home. Today's episode is with my friend, Matt Raymond. Matt Raymond is the business development and marketing director for Team Auto Group, a 6 dealership auto group in North Carolina. This is for all my sellers out there. If you are trying to sell more billboards, more out of home to tier 3 automotive dealers in your market, this is an episode you absolutely have to listen to. Matt and I have been working together across a number of different marketing projects, from things like direct mail and billboards to digital things on the internet. Matt is one of the savviest marketers in automotive, and he's going to get you behind the scenes and under the hood of what it means to be a marketing decision maker at a tier 3 automotive dealer. So if you want to know why tier 3 dealers are buying billboards, how you could potentially use that information to level up your own game and sell to more dealers in your market, this is an episode you do not want to miss. And if you want to learn more about what we're up to at OneScreen, get more education, more marketing collateral, things like that are going to help you go sell more billboards, then definitely check out the learning library, check out the blog at OneScreen. That's www.onescreen.ai. So check that out. And without further ado, let's go.
Welcome everybody to the Out of Home Insider Show, a podcast like no other, hosted by the one and only Tim Rowe. Get ready to have some knowledge dropped on you and to be entertained, because nothing's more valuable than food for your brain. So sit back, relax, we're about to dive in as the best industry podcast is about to begin.
Matt Raymond, welcome to the podcast. It's crazy to think that we haven't done this yet, but I think that the time is appropriate that we do it now. We talk every morning. We might as well just record one of those conversations. What's going on?
Not much. It's great to be on the show. I know we talked a little bit earlier, but, thinking about how we met when you came in with the agency you were working with, the dealership that I was at the time. And, you're like, hey, let's just talk about this. Let's just do that. And, we ran the tax mailer back in the day.
That's right. We met because we did a lot of direct mail together. So that's usually a good place to start. That's where we start most of these conversations is not necessarily how we met, but origin stories. So I was working at an ad agency and you were a client, and we did a lot of direct mail projects together. But Matt, maybe tell it from your perspective. How did we meet?
Yeah. So you came in, we were doing direct mail. We ran the tax mailer, and then you came back and you're like, hey, what do we got to do? And I'm like, man, we got to get people in here for these frame recalls. And you're like,
because you were at a Toyota dealership at the time, and the Toyota Tacoma, popular pickup truck. There was like a set of years that were plagued by these frame issues, right? Like the whole frame of the truck had to be replaced.
Yep. And
it was a super valuable job, right? How much did the dealership make to do a frame job?
I don't quote me on it, but I think it was like somewhere in the 15 to 20 grand range.
$15,000 to $20,000 to do a factory approved.
I could be wrong, but
warranty job.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I know it wasn't cheap, it wasn't something to pass on. There was good money in it. But yeah, you came to me and you're like, well, let's do a postcard. And I'm like, okay. And then we're like, hey, let's look at overstocked, we got oil filters. I think your first message came out like, caution, your vehicle is in grave danger. Or something.
It was the same color as my back. It was bright yellow with black. And I think we all had a slight palpitation. We're like, okay, that's going to give people agita.
Yeah. That was the thing. We're like, oh, we don't need to scare people.
Aggressive.
So we did we're stocked with oil filters. And so we did a $9.95 oil change for Tacomas, Tundras, and Sequoias. And
it was a targeted direct mail campaign, right? We got a list of owners.
Yeah. So we bought the list based upon the VIN numbers that might qualify.
Right. That's right.
And so there was about 1,500 people on that list. We went out about 40 miles. And I remember it was like $1,500 because it was about $1 a postcard with creative and all that. And we just let it fly. And we had people come in.
less than $2,000. You did this postcard mailer to a super targeted list with a $9.99 oil change offer, but with the motive of getting a $15,000 frame job. If you got one of them, you would have 10x your investment, and it went pretty well.
Yeah. So we did. The last number I heard, I believe they told me it was 15 frame jobs that they had done.
Damn. So I mean, I'm not that good at math, but that's like 200 something $1,000 off of a $1,500 postcard mailer.
Yeah, it was, see, that was early into my marketing career. The one thing I regretted was not doing a better job of tracking, because it was more like, hey, how do we do? Oh man, we got this many frames this week. Hey, how do we do? Oh, we got this many frames. Versus like, I wish I'd really done a spreadsheet and shown out the ROI of it all.
Sure.
And again, you live and learn in those situations, but it was a super success. And people were calling their local dealer, because it did go out a little bit further than our market. And people called their local dealer and like, yeah, right. If they can do an oil change for that, we're not going to do that. Go to them. And so people would call and be like, is this some sort of scam? We're like, no, seriously, it's $9.95. Just bring your truck in. And they would pull up and we put it up on the frame, or put it up on the lift and tap on the frame. And we had already talked to Enterprise, and we had Enterprise there with loaner vehicles and stuff like that, within 30 minutes or 40 minutes.
And really the customers needed a new frame. It's not like you were like, none of this was bullshit. Like they really need, like your vehicle's actually unsafe.
Yeah.
It's the least of your concern is the $9.95 oil change. Congratulations. Now you've got a new vehicle.
And that was the thing.
Was rusted and falling apart.
And that was the thing. Like if their vehicle frame passed, because we had some people, don't get me wrong, some people came in and we lifted it up and it was like, oh yeah, I just got a brand new frame. And we're like, oh, cool. Well, here's your $9.95 oil change.
Yeah, congrats.
Have a good day. Yeah. Everybody tap, tap, tap. It sounds brand new.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So that was a kind of a, the beginning of how we met. And then I know we did different mailers and stuff throughout the years. And then when I got the opportunity to come down here in North Carolina, I remember, being like, hey, I think I got the right person for the gig for my, taking over for me. And that's when you stepped into that role, and until you ventured out on your own. And, but we've always, been in communication, talking about stuff. And it's when I came down here, we do a lot of digital,
And where are you now? You say down here, this dealership was in Eastern Pennsylvania. And ultimately I filled your shoes for a period of time, and we're going to come back and talk about some of that. That was my first introduction to outdoor, was through that role. But you got the opportunity to leave Eastern Pennsylvania and this dealer group and move to North Carolina with your family to be a part of Team Auto Group, which now you've got 6 stores, 5 Chevy stores, a Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram store as well. When you got there 3 years ago, you only had two stores?
One store.
One store.
Yeah.
One store. 5 stores in 5 years?
So I came down to, do the, run the BDC and stuff like that. That's what I started at,
And the BDC, for anyone that doesn't know, that's like the call center, right? When you call into the dealership to talk to someone or someone calls you from the dealership, that's the business development center. Sorry.
Yes. So we, when I started, we had 4 BDC agents. We had no service BDC. And now I have a sales BDC manager, a service BDC manager, 2 sales BDC team leaders, and then 21 agents.
Wow.
for sales. And then on service, we have 9 agents.
So a 30-person team, 30 agents plus the leadership structure. Correct. To support now 6 dealerships. So needless to say, the operation has grown a ton since you've gotten there, and you've been instrumental in that, leading the business development efforts, leading the marketing efforts, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about here. Coming back to Eastern Pennsylvania for a second, I was so grateful and super blessed to be able to step into your role at that point, because I had just spent like a year and a half on the road. I think I was doing like 40,000 miles a year. And I just missed my son's T-ball game. And that was something that I was just immediately like, there's no amount of money that is worth me missing my kid's stuff. And the opportunity to take your spot, Matt, I was 5 minutes down the street from his school, and I went from missing T-ball games to coaching his T-ball team. So thank you. It was just such a timely blessing. And, we've continued to stay close since then. But I remember the first thing I did was I said, I need to see the advertising statement. I need to see where all the money's spent. I had a good idea of what some of the investments were, but I remember I saw the invoice for Adams Outdoor. I said, billboards. And I said, billboards, fired. And I called up Peter Geffert and said, I'm not paying your stinking contract. And Peter and I ended up becoming pretty good friends when I was at Adams, but I did not see the value of out of home for several years later, but it was a channel that you were investing in at that dealer group, specifically for the Mitsubishi brand. And we can talk maybe a little bit about co-op, but When did you start buying outdoor as a car dealer? Because it's a category that outdoor still struggles with from the tier 3, the local dealer level. Why did you start investing in outdoor as a marketing director there in Eastern Pennsylvania?
So, well, I'll say two things, and I'll give a plug to Peter. Maybe you can tag
Peter.
Video.
Peter's the best, man.
He was instrumental. He was a great salesperson. I say that, but in the sense that, selling the sizzle, we hear that all the time, right? And so
great evangelist
Peter
for
was
out of home.
Always ahead of the game with everything when we were talking about stuff. And like a couple of things that Adams really did to help me on it was on the digital side, they gave me access to put our own boards up. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so we could.
So you had to the CMS. You could put your own creative up on the digital billboards.
I could put my own creative up on the digital boards. And so one of the things that I did, and this is kind of a little bit of a tangent, but when you do digital boards, right, it's just you're buying slots. And so they have 8 slots or whatever it is allocated. So I can put in 200 different creatives and they'll show all of them. It just matters on how far apart then each creative becomes. But
sure,
what I ended up doing was giving away 1 slot a month to a nonprofit organization. It costs us something, but it doesn't cost us something. You know what I'm saying? And hearing people always call up and go, "Hey, I just saw the billboard for X, Y, and Z, or this ABC, whatever it might be," made me realize how many people are paying attention to this stuff. It allowed me to get very creative with it. I learned a lot from Mr. H, who was the owner of the dealership and stuff. He had said to me one time,
who also owns billboards, by the way. Mr. H has like 3 or 4 billboards in addition to car dealerships and a donkey farm, miniature donkey farm.
And he had said to me, because I did this really cool billboard, the graphics artist did a phenomenal job. It was all colorful. And he goes, "Nope." I said, "What do you mean? No, it looks awesome." He goes, "Yep." He goes, "You missed the message." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It has to be black, white, and red. Those are your colors. That's it." I'm like, "Seriously? People want to see color." He's like, "Black, white, or red." Change the same billboard, just change the color scheme.
Describe Mr. H, because you and I can so appreciate just the profound nature of that. But Mr. H is old school, right? Like he really does own a miniature donkey farm. Mm-hmm. And the used car part of the dealership was called the Corral or something too, right? Like
originally, it was the Auto Ranch, and
Ranch, right?
And the way to hear his, I don't want to tell his story, I'll let him tell it, but the way he got into automotive and everything like that. But it was so, his way of thinking with marketing was so grassroots within being in the community. And I know they're still in the community. I just saw an ad the other day on Facebook that, all the nonprofits and stuff they sponsor, and just watching how he taught me these things. And it really, there's a book out there. Gosh, I can't think of the name of it. Somebody gave it to me, but it talks about marketing. And to this day, it's like a foundational book for every marketer to read, because we think it gets all fancy and everything, but when you really start breaking down the basics of marketing, I mean, you think about it, like when you're driving down the road and you see billboards for McDonald's, listen, there's hundreds of billboards out there for it. But if you go into a room right now and walk in and say, "Everybody tell me a fast food restaurant," right now, you're going to get 80% of the people are going to tell you McDonald's.
Whether they go there or not.
Whether they go there, exactly.
It'd be my answer too. I haven't been to a McDonald's in like 7 years. Right. It'd still be my answer.
Right. And so they've got it branded, right? You're driving down the road and you see a billboard for, there's, being in North Carolina, there's a ton of them, but fireworks billboards or whatever it might be. You see all these different billboards, and it's just branding. Well, then I got talking to somebody, and this is really kind of caught my attention. I got talking to somebody about billboards, and she said to me, that, and there was some weird study, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but X number of people are looking at their phones when they should be driving. Like, that doesn't shock me. But I still like my billboards. So then I realized, let's take our billboards and then just put them on Facebook, right? I mean, it's creative, right? Just shrink it. And
simple, sure.
So the whole idea is like just constant branding of your message. And that's what we do now. We run these billboards in the different locations around us. And we make them be something that everybody, I hate to say everybody can qualify, but everybody can get, right? Yeah. We did a focus group back in the day. And one of the things we found in the focus group, we were undercover. It was pretty cool, like undercover boss. And we just invited random people. People said that when they saw car ads, they thought either they didn't qualify, it was too good to be true, it was a scam, the money never really went where they said it went, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the proctor of this, and he was not an automotive person, came out and said, well, what makes you choose a car dealership then? And they said, do you have the vehicle? Can I drive it? And can I leave with it? Yeah. And if we're not seeing that today, right now, with what's going on in the economy, and economy is a bad word, what's going on within the automotive market, inventory is
non-existent.
Non-existent, but it's crazy. I mean,
you've got 6 dealerships. How many cars do you have on the ground right now, new and used?
We've got about 600, but
it's still not a lot.
No, not really.
There's dealerships who will sell 600 cars a month.
Yeah.
And you have 600, right? So the dynamics of automotive are just amazing. But those 3 things, right? Do you have the car? Can I drive it? Can I leave with it? Mm-hmm. That's going to be right. Cause I can do all the research. I can see what the pricing should be or about what my payments should be. And I have a pretty good idea of the trim that I want, the features, et cetera. So using out of home to reach everyone in the community with the message that could relate to any of them is exactly right. It's exactly how to use the medium, because we all interact with it, right? I've got a billboard behind me with the MLS on it. You may not be into soccer, but you probably still think it's a pretty cool billboard. There's a huge soccer ball flying off of it, right? We all experience it together.
And don't get me wrong, like it captures your attention. And yeah, maybe 50% of the people in America like soccer, and the other 50%, don't like soccer. And so you segment your audience, but it appeals to all 50% of those people. So right. For us, everybody in America, let me rewind that. Most everybody in America needs an automobile or needs to service their automobile. So when we're creating creative for out of home, we want to create it in a way that we appeal to everybody, right? We don't want to jump on these bandwagons of trying to be witty, and don't get me wrong, we've got a couple of the witty ones out there, but
you're the king of dad. For folks that don't know, Matt Raymond also moonlights as the king of dad jokes. Maybe he'll even give us one today.
So it's it's one of those things, like, I shared with you that billboard we did for our collision center that said, when you've hit everything but the lottery,
right. But it makes people stop. It makes them think. It makes them laugh. Right. The hardest part of digital marketing is getting people to stop scrolling.
Right.
So if I can stop you for 6 seconds while you're driving, as I poke myself in the eye, if I can stop you for 6 seconds while you're driving to make you think, oh gosh, that's kind of funny. That's witty. Maybe it's the only time all day that you smiled or laughed.
Right.
Right. And Team Auto Group was able to deliver that experience. If it's just something as small as that, or maybe somebody did just run into the mailbox backing out of the driveway because they were in such a rush for work, and they go, oh my gosh, like that's funny. And also I probably got to get my taillight looked at because it's smashed out and laying in the driveway.
Well, exactly. And so, we talked about that billboard. I don't think it was in yet. We had recorded it, but the one in Goldsboro where there's an Air Force base and it says, I love jet noise on that billboard coming into town. Well, that billboard came available, and I know it's a perfect location because I drive by this thing all the time.
And how long had that creative had been up on this billboard? What was it? Was it just like a local, was it a business, or was it just like a feel good kind of message for the market because we're an Air Force town?
That's exactly it. And I don't even know where. I'd guess maybe the town or somebody.
The vinyl was all worn out, sun dried looking tomato thing.
Yep. And so, I love that billboard. I love fighter jets. Like
Matt loves fighder jets.
I do. If anybody out there can hook me up with an incentive flight, I'm in.
An incentive flight, he said.
But the swap out that we did was I love vet noise.
Now, like Corvette, because you're a Chevy dealership.
Yeah,
I like
not a Chevette, a Corvette.
a Corvette. I love vet noise. I love it. Right. So you've got this billboard that's been in this kind of iconic place driving into town. We all know that Goldsboro's, it's a jet town, right? It's an Air Force town. We get that. Here's this billboard. It's had this creative on it for a few years. Everyone's gotten used to seeing it. Now it's kind of looking sad. It's looking a little bit worn out. It's needing a refresh. And rather than come out and be like, oh, we're Team Auto Group and we're here to sell you cars, you said, what if we were on brand and on message and had fun and paid tribute to what was here, right? Like, what if we did all those things? So the billboard's going to say, I love vet noise.
Yep.
And feature, I'm guessing, the
picture of a
Corvette, of course.
And the whole thing behind it was just a play on words, a play on the community, play on who we are in Goldsboro. And unless it's a digital billboard, I don't know why dealers are advertising cars. I don't know, unless like, with Chevy coming out with this new electric truck, unless your message is around that. But here's the thing. You take the 2% of the people that are in the market to buy a car, then the percentage of people that are looking for a Chevy, then the percentage of people looking for a truck, and then the percentage of people looking for an electric truck, right? That's what you've done with that audience in that billboard. Whereas
so let's put some numbers to it. Because what you just did, I think, is the most important exercise maybe of this entire conversation. In a town of 100,000 people, 2% of the market's in the market for a car any given time. And that's all cars, new cars, used cars, domestic, foreign, whatever, right? So 100,000 people means 2,000 people will buy a car this month. Of those 2,000, how many will buy a Chevy? 200. So there are going to be 200 Chevys sold. Of those 200 Chevys sold, 50 of them are going to be trucks. Of those 50 trucks that get sold, some are going to be 1,500, some are going to be 2,500, some are going to be 3,500, some are going to be something totally different. Some are going to be small trucks, right? Of those 50 trucks that get sold, how many are going to be electric? 1,
2, 3,
2.
Right.
Right. And you just spent $5,000 on a billboard. And it's very possible the 2 people just bought that electric truck, didn't even know you did a billboard about the electric truck.
Correct. But to see, that's what we look at, right? So when I go out to look at purchasing billboards, I look at traffic patterns, and I learned this in Pennsylvania. Like where I lived and worked in Pennsylvania, you had a mountain, our dealership, and then the valley. And people that lived in the valley did not come up the mountain. People that lived on top of the mountain could drive a little further up the mountain to another dealership, but they didn't. They came down the mountain. If you look at the way people travel, I mean, people are creatures of habit. It's been proven. Anybody that does any kind of law enforcement, detective, tracking, things like that,
And that's what you did actually before automotive. You were a law enforcement guy.
Yeah, it's. I'll tell you a little funny story about how this all came to be. My father was in law enforcement too. And he told me that if you ever know if somebody's left-handed or right-handed, when they get into any kind of pursuit or anything like that, if they're right-handed, they'll typically turn to the right. Well, we know what the percentage of people are in America that are typically right-handed. So if you know that my percentage of people in America are, I'm going to make up a number, 75% are right-handed, and you engage in a high-speed chase, the odds that person is right-handed is pretty good. So if you think, did they go left or did they go right? They probably went right. I got in a high-speed chase with a kid. And
all right. So for all you left-handed people out there like me,
we were coming up to an intersection, right? And he got over the hill before I did. And he crashed. And it was a 4-way intersection. He crashed into a wall. And I got him out and I, handcuffed him and I was talking to him and I said, how did you crash? You had a choice. You could go straight, you could go left, or you could go right. He goes, man, I wanted to go left, but I just went right. I said, are you left-handed or right-handed? He said, I'm right-handed. What does that have to do with anything? Listen, I don't know how true it is. I just saw it from my own eyes. And my whole point to that is people are creatures of habit, right? So if we learn people's traffic patterns, we learn where they live. And, one of the things that in billboard, people are probably going to cringe when I say this. They think because their billboard's on a busy road, it's the best billboard to have. And it's not always the best billboard to have, because you might have a billboard that's on a back road that sees 250 cars a day, but you could put up a picture of a brand new Silverado towing a boat, and that road that only sees 250 cars has people that make six figures a year that all they drive is American-made vehicles and tow boats. It might be the right billboard for that area.
Sure might be the right billboard.
So you've got to look at your demographics, right? You've got to look at what people are doing. I mean, we put a billboard up. I can say this now because the billboards come down. We put a billboard up in Goldsboro that talked about offering free diagnostics to every vehicle, every make, every model. That was it.
And that's like when you get a check engine light, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's usually, I mean, that could be expensive, like $175 to get diagnosed at a deallership.
There's a little auto mile, right? I call it auto mile. Anytime I see 4 or 5 dealerships in a line, I call it auto mile. There's a little auto mile right there with a whole bunch of dealerships. And when I was asked, what's your thought process behind this? I said, simple. Somebody's driving down the road because their check engine light's on, and they're driving a Nissan, and they go, you know what? I'm going to go get this check engine light checked. And they pull in, and the person checking them in at Nissan goes, well, what do you think's wrong? Well, my check engine light's on, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we'll diagnose it. It's going to be $112 or $200, whatever they charge.
Sure. Not free.
Right. Not free. They say, you know what? I'm going to go right across the street. Or maybe they're coming, they already know we're going to charge for it because they made an appointment and they see the complimentary and they just pull in. They went from averaging, 20 appointments a day in the service drive to over 60 appointments.
Wow. So three, and to quantify some of that value, right? So here's some for any of our billboard sellers out there, any of our business development folks that are trying to do more business with car dealerships. Maybe we could get into some of this math here, Matt. We talked about, what percentage of the market's in the market to buy a car, et cetera. Like, go back, rewind that, write that math down. We've both sat in the seat where if you're trying to sell a billboard to a decision maker at an automotive dealership, you've got both of us right here. We've both done that role a lot. So that's the math we're thinking about on a new sales side. So don't come talking to us about advertising a new lease special. We don't have any cars.
No.
And the math stinks anyway. We'll talk about branding. We'll come back to some of the measurement stuff there, but from a service standpoint, to go from 20 ROs a day, what's the average repair order? RO stands for repair order. What's the average repair order for you? $150?
No, it's a little bit more than that. Probably $300, $400.
Well, kudos to you, my friend. That's very healthy. So let's just say it was $300 and we had 20 of those, right? That's $6,000 a day. If you went from 20 to 60, if we went from $6,000 to $18,000, I think we would all be okay saying, yeah, I'll make 3 times as much money today. I still have to show up. If I still have to show up to work, if you want to pay me 3 times as much to do it, I'd be happy to do that. So, and you attribute some of that to the billboard campaign.
Absolutely. And I know that because, the service manager would call me up and say, yep, got another one. With the fact that
stacking them up.
Yeah, people don't hesitate to tell you, hey, your sign out front says complimentary. Like, I'm here.
I'm here for the free stuff.
It's free. It's for me.
Yeah.
And I don't fault the customer, right? But like, we get in this mindset in automotive that we're here to sell cars.
Yeah,
and selling cars is great, but again, even just looking at website traffic, it's over 60% of your traffic is there for your service stuff. Yet you have an entire website, 1 page dedicated to service, maybe 2, service scheduler and service specials, right? You got hundreds of pages dedicated to cars. Again, not every car is for every person,
Sure.
But we feature, it just cracks me up. And so I want to be able to always make sure that when we're doing these ads, these billboard ads, we're doing it for the largest. I want to cast the biggest net I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's ultimately the goal, is to cast the biggest net I can. Why is Amazon kill it on the internet all the time with selling stuff? Because you go on there and you just type what you're thinking. Like, I don't know what to buy Tim Rowe for turning 30 years old. What do I buy a guy turning 30? Amazon has a whole list of the most popular items.
Sure.
I was on.
I wish I was turning 30.
I know, so am I. But what do I buy? What do you buy? Somebody that a recent college grad. You can type in anything you want.
It's a search engine, sure.
Exactly, and so it needs to. Your marketing needs to be in that manner that oh man, I need an oil change. Oh, just go down the street. They got an oil change promotion going.
Yeah. I saw. Oh, but I don't drive a Chevy. Yeah, but I think it's any make, any model.
They make any model. Yeah. One of the biggest things we ever did at the Toyota dealership, I don't know if you ever remember this. So we did a thing at the Toyota dealership where we, I want to say it was Veterans Day, and it was any prior or current military service. Just come in with your military ID and PA. They give it to you right on your driver's license, and show us your military ID, and we'll be happy to do a complimentary oil change. We had people showing up. They would send their wives down or their husbands down. Hey, they're at work. But I brought a picture of their license because we told them what they needed to do. Right? Yep, no problem. Come on in. Sure. we
and from a new customer standpoint, like, because you're right? Like there are a finite number of vehicles that are going to be sold in the market at any given time. We know on average about how much we're going to make selling a car, right, as a car dealer. So the ability to acquire new service customers who may otherwise be going to Jiffy Lube, SCS, Midas, maybe to another dealership that they had a bad experience at, or are looking for someplace that's more convenient or offers a drop off and pickup service or something else, right? Like there's a much larger pool of customers who are looking to service their vehicle than there are looking to buy what you sell in a given 30-day period. So how effective have some of those things been to acquire new customers, or to even to reactivate maybe some customers who become inactive?
It's effective. When I look at, like, we had in Pennsylvania, we had a dealer that got very aggressive in their pricing and stuff, and they were stealing out of our market area a little bit. So we were in the service drive one day talking to the service advisor, and a customer pulled in, and they wanted a state inspection done. And we did state inspections complimentary if you had purchased from us or you had the plate bracket on. And so I said to the customer, I said, you bought down there. Yeah, I live that way. Well, why'd you come up here? Well, they're backed up in appointments. You guys are pretty efficient in service. Oh, well, what about if I switch out your plate bracket and then I can comp your inspection going forward, and then going forward, we'll just always do your inspection for no charge. And like, you do that? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. What did I do? What did I just do? I just threw a billboard on their car for no charge.
Right. Every time I'm sitting at a traffic light, instead of seeing the other guy's name on the car in front of me, now I'm seeing your name. And what did it cost you?
It cost me a plate bracket. And the thing is and
and a sticker.
Yeah, which is $3, I think. Obviously there's more for the labor of it, but but here's the thing: the guy didn't live in our market area. Mm-hmm. He just came to us because it was a little bit more convenient. He worked up that way. We had a big hospital up there. Worked up that way, and it was a little bit more convenient. But it's just, having 6 dealerships in North Carolina now, and I have 5 hours to drive to the one that's over by Camp Lejeune. You know where that is?
Sure.
And, or driving up to Boone or wherever. I'm on Interstate 40 a lot. And I'm looking at the back of cars and I see team. And I'm starting to see us more and more and more and watching us grow. And those are billboards. Those are billboards on people's cars. Dealerships, again, you go back to the old school car dealership, right? Back in the day when they were owned by dealers that wanted their last name in it. They just wanted to see it so they could tell their buddies, look at that, that's my dealership. But it became such a huge branding thing. It's a genius way to brand something.
It's like a lot of little, especially, I love it. I love it from a strategic standpoint of, I've got billboards. I've got these big cornerstone billboards, and then I've got these little breadcrumbs all around the market, which are these license plate frames and stickers on the backs of cars. It's really becomes an effective campaign. Matt, if we can, in maybe the last segment here, talk about some of the data that we've looked at for planning some of your buying, some of those tools and how that plays in. I'd love to just get your thoughts maybe on some things around co-op and how dealers could kind of reframe and think about out of home as a tool in the toolbox. So, when we started talking about you getting the billboards for the store down there, I think it was Swansboro originally was the first store. And we pulled data from your dealership, actual data from your dealership to see where do your customers live and what roads do they take, right? Where do they live? Where do they work? And how do they get between those two places? Because if we can understand where they live and where they work and how they get to those two places, well, the other parts of their day start to fill in, pretty nicely. We've got a whole bunch of robust reporting and things like that. But as a dealer, right, and as an industry that so much of the spend has become focused on digital money, online, quantifiable return on investment. If I can't see it in Google Analytics, it doesn't exist. You've been a long-standing proponent of outdoor, and we've talked about some of the reasons why and some of those impacts. But as a dealer, and especially after COVID, and you had to reevaluate, what are the things we're going to do, and to reach our audiences, how important is that data to you, to your dealer principal? How important is that data when selecting billboards so that you can confidently say, yes, this may not be a perfect channel, right? We may not have perfect targeting and perfect analytics, but I can very confidently say, this is where 80% of my customers live, work, and play. This is the billboard that I should be on. How important has the data become in terms of you now having billboards for 4 of the 6 stores and continuing to add? Where does that factor in?
So I'll give you a couple different parts here. We did that, right? You and I sat down, we looked at some data, and then because I've driven those areas and drove those areas again, and this wasn't an overnight decision. I think that's the biggest problem is dealers kind of get side-slapped, with somebody walks in from a billboard company and says, hey, want to buy some billboards? If you don't, the guy down the street's going to do it, and they just buy them. You got to go out and drive those market areas. You got to make sure that billboard looks good. You got to be on there during traffic patterns, understand traffic patterns, but you have a whole wealth of data inside a CRM, right? Just pull your zip code report, see what your number 1 zip codes are. See, okay, this is their zip code. You can see people's work information, what they might have put for where they work and things like that, or look at, travel patterns, traffic patterns, and engage it as best as you can. Nothing's going to be 100% perfect, but you'll get really good ideas. But on top of that, I'm trying to think of how I want to say this, but it's just understanding. I think it's just understanding the data, right? We just can't do things because it makes us feel good. And when you talk about co-op, that's probably a perfect example, right? Well, is it co-opable? That's the worst thing in the world, right? Listen, I love the OEMs to death, but sometimes they don't really know what to be spending the money on or what they should be co-oping. Or
they're co-oping the things that they want you to spend the money on, regardless of whether or not that makes sense for you.
Exactly. And, and on top of it, they've got these partnerships worked out. And listen, the worst part about a partnership, I mean, if you want your lawn mowed, you're not going to come to me to have me tell you who you should go to. And, oh, by the way, I've already negotiated the pricing, to then have them show up and mow your neighbor's yard and you still get billed. It's just, and that's kind of what they do, right? They everything becomes so cookie cutter and it doesn't separate you. And, and for me, like, there's a lot of amazing dealers out there, a lot of them. There's a lot of them doing it right, and there's a lot of them not doing it right. And it's okay to not do it right, because people like Team Auto Group, we're always looking to buy, and if it's not for you, I mean, they can sell and, retire and live the life. There's my shameless little plug that, we're always.
Yeah. Listen, that's the hot repurpose house. When you come back through, repurpose house does all the social content. That's the hot take right there. Some do a good job. Others don't do such a good job. And that's okay, because Team Auto Group is always in the market to buy. Yeah. And that is the opportunity. I appreciate thinking through that. And I remember, right, those Mitsubishi billboards, when you didn't do billboards for Mitsubishi complained, like the people that sold Mitsubishis, because they felt it, because more people showed up to buy Mitsubishis when there were Mitsubishi billboards. There weren't perfect analytics. It was mostly seat of the pants, right? But there were co-op dollars at play. You had a good strategy, a good sound fundamentals, in a time where we see analytics becoming harder and harder, especially for digital channels. When analytics is getting harder for those things, out of home has become arguably just as measurable. You're doing some cool stuff. You're plugging in the audiences from folks that drive past the billboards into your Facebook ads and retargeting folks on social. And as a dealer who, is quickly expanding, and every dollar, right, unlocks a new dollar in efficiency, the more we can have these synergies between our offline and online media, the better that's going to be for the long-term brand equity, the better that's going to be for the immediate return on ad spend. And it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see the data. It's exciting to see forward-thinking dealers like Team Auto Group leaning into outdoor in a time where so many folks are kind of wheeling from the digital hangover of what do I do now? Like I woke up and this isn't all magical and I have to become a real marketer now. And you've stayed ahead of that. And part of that staying ahead of the curve in the marketing side, you built the BDC from 4 people to 30 plus. Now you're building a marketing team as well for the dealer group. So talk to us about you're building like an agency within the group, right?
Yeah. So we had an agency partnership like any dealership, and we had a great relationship. They did a great job for us. But as we continue to grow, and this was a perfect example with that, I love that noise. Is I went in there and said, I talked to the guy from the billboard company. I said, hey, this is still available? He goes, yeah, we've got a couple people looking at it. I'm like, dang, okay. I said, can you hold it for like an hour? He's like, yeah, I can hold it for a day. I said, hold it. I ran into, Casey, who's our graphics person, and I said, hey, can you make this for me? She said, sure.
And Casey is not, Casey's like with you. Casey's in the office.
A couple offices over. She made it up. I had it back in 15 minutes. I got Kristen involved and I got Glenn involved, and we went through and,
some of the other leaders in that. Kristen's the dealer principal. Yep. Glenn's the variable ops director.
Exactly. Yep. And so we went through, picked it apart, put it together, had it done 45 minutes. I emailed them and said, send me a contract. Here's the board, rock and roll. That's what dealerships are missing by not having somebody in-house to create these graphics. And then we thought, okay, well, this is all part of us building our marketing team. And the whole idea is to eliminate the back and forth, have a much more productive turnaround time. But what's the one thing that we're talking about in all this? If we haven't said it, we're saying it, is branding. We're talking about branding. Our logo is the same, no matter if it goes on a shirt, no matter if it goes on a billboard, our logo is the same. So if our logo is the same and we have our core values and we have our vision statements and our mission statement, and we have these guiding principles and these 3-year and 5-year and 10-year goals and everything you can read about when you visit Team Auto Group and see who we are. Well, how do we put it out there? Well, there's nobody better than an in-house marketing team to eat, sleep, and breathe and get our message out there.
Your people are the best marketing that your dealership could do.
They 100% are. There's nobody that's going to get our messaging better than ourselves. All you have to do is sit in on an interview. And when I love it when somebody wants to come work for us and they say, well, why do you like working here? Well, let's sit down, put your feet up, because it's going to take a while. It's that, and to that I'm looking for a marketing director, Facebook and pay-per-click specialist, SEO specialist. So the positions are out there, but that's what
if there's somebody so you're looking for a marketing director, and this is not what folks think of. If there's any automotive, this is not a traditional automotive marketing director. This is more akin to an agency director, because you're building an internal agency. So it's someone who's got maybe some agency background or has worked in that structure, has led a team like that, a pay-per-click specialist and SEO specialist. Where can folks find those roles if there's someone listening right now that wants to apply? On the website?
We're getting them all on our website on teamautogroup.com.
Cool. We'll definitely link to that.
Or they can email me directly at mraymond@teamautogroup.com. And if you want to put that in the,
definitely, we'll get that in the show notes. It's MRAYMOND at
teamautogroup.com.
teamautogroup.com. Go to the website, go to the careers page, check that out. Mike, focus forward. If y'all could make sure that's in the show notes, that would be super helpful. Matt, I'm excited. Do you think that more dealers in the next 12 to 18 months, I'm making it a personal mission of mine, but do you think that we'll start to see, as an out-of-home industry, as an outdoor industry, do we think that we're going to start to see more dealers turning to traditional offline media to freshen that marketing mix? What are you hearing from inside the industry? Are they going to continue to double down on digital tactics, or are you hearing folks talk about offline too?
I don't hear as much offline as you would think. We're still caught up in the third parties. we're still caught up in Facebook. We're still caught up in pay-per-click, and essentially we're out there competing to get the business. And sometimes I have to wonder why, and I'm probably going to get a bunch of hate comments on this, but like, why would you spend all that money if you don't have your brand strong? And this is the best example. Yeah. We all have that one pizza place or restaurant in town that everybody knows about and everybody raves, right? When's the last time you saw an ad for them on Facebook? When's the last time you saw them in pay-per-click? You didn't. You just knew who they were, right? It's no different in automotive. Why can't you be the dealership of your community? If every dealership just took care of their own people, you may not be a dealer turning out 600 units a month, but you might turn out 150 of the happiest customers in the world that want to come and service with you. And so my whole thought process is if people go out, the reason why I like out of home is because it gives people that feeling of like, I'm in home. Like, I'm not going to put a billboard 300 miles away from where I am, but a really bad digital marketing tactic could end up putting you 300 miles away from where you are. And you hear about this stuff all the time. We did this back up north in Pennsylvania, right? We focused on where people worked, and we actually advertised out towards New York, New Jersey, because they made that travel versus advertising where they lived. More people shop from work than they do shopping from home. And we saw it actually have a better effect on driving traffic back to the store. So when we look at out of home, those are our people. Those are the people that play softball and baseball and football with our kids, right? They're the ones we're shaking hands with at church. They're who they are. And I remembered what I was going to touch on too, is one of the things that I like to do when we open up a new store is go into one of the local restaurants and just sit down, maybe usually at the bar, because it's a little easier to get like face-to-face one-on attention, but just to, not have any of my work gear on and just say, hey, I just moved to the area. I'm looking for a couple of things. I'm actually looking for a new car. Where's the best place to go around here? If you say it loud enough, everybody that's at the bar that's had a few cocktails is going to weigh in on everything. And when they start crapping on the store you bought, or they start praising the store you bought, you're starting to find out what you have. And can you use that as like 100% social proof? No, but I guarantee if 10 people sitting at the bar all crap on a place, you're going to know, okay, there's something going on here that needs to be looked at or addressed or whatever. And if it's your competitor, maybe you found their weak spot. Those are the things, you start having those conversations and finding out. And you can go to 2 or 3 different restaurants and ask the same thing and just keep notes. And I mean, it's just getting down and dirty. I mean, we have a joke in our neighborhood, and it's called "I've Got a Guy," and it's because our neighbors, when you get on our community Facebook page, somebody will say, hey, I need a landscaper. And somebody goes, oh, I've got a guy. I need a plumber. Oh, I got a guy. Everybody wants to have a guy, right? Everybody wants to have a lawyer. Not always, but like everybody wants to know. Everybody wants
don't want to have a reason to have a lawyer, but everybody does want to say, yeah, my attorney will handle that.
Right. Like my dad was an attorney. And so he has a whole bunch of people in his life that love free advice.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Everybody wants to have a doctor they can call up and, a friend that go, hey, I get this really weird ache, when I do this, and they go, well, don't do that, that type of thing. But everybody wants a car guy. Everybody does. I get calls all the time from people I grew up with in Maine. Hey, I'm thinking about trading in my car. Is now a good time?
Same.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm years out of the business and people still call me, and I'll still plug them in. And yeah, everybody wants to have a guy, or everybody wants to have a girl. Everybody wants to have a billboard guy, or everybody wants to have a billboard girl. And right. These are things, real estate, right? When we think about, these are professional services. These are high value investments, and we want to have a trusted advisor. So the opportunity to become trusted advisor status, and from a local level, I mean, that's just kudos to you. That's good fundamentals of marketing. There's no Facebook report for that. There's no Google report for that. Your social listening tools, you can, where to shove it. Like sometimes it just means going out in the community. Oh, my direct mail's not working. Get in your car, go drive past the houses where the direct mail got delivered.
Well,
oh, wow. This is not my target demo. So I've been sending mail to the wrong place.
We ran a mailer one day in Pennsylvania, one time in Pennsylvania. And I was so bothered by how the mail was getting sent out that I said, you know what? can I have that mail drop shipped to the dealership? First off, anybody listening, don't recommend this. Don't recommend
it. It comes on pallets.
It comes on pallets, and there was like 30,000 pieces of mail. If you don't know what 30,000 pieces of mail look like, it's painful.
Just take Matt's word for it.
I loaded it into 5 different vehicles because then you can deliver it to the postal sites for the zip codes in the area. And when you drop ship it to the post office, they have to deliver it within like a day or 2 or something crazy. Versus if it shows up on a pallet, they have X number of days to go through it, X number of days to get it out. So it was all bundled based upon routes and stuff like that. And I gave it to them and they said, yep, we'll get it out. And they did. And we had the best success in that mailer that we had ever had. Because I firmly believe that all the other mailers just got thrown in the trash, especially when it was a little bit of a gimmicky mailer, come on in, get a free hot dog, type of thing. But I wanted to see how it would work. And it worked much better when we took control of it. But that's like anything with your marketing. Like you said, I mean, it's great. There's so many fun widgets out there, especially in automotive. And, there's so many cool things and state of the art and AI technology and, proprietary software and all this other stuff when it really is a relationship. That's it. Just it's building relationships. And when you can build that relationship within the community and then keep that branding going, it's going to, and the biggest mistake we have in automotive is that we think we've got to sell everybody a car. Listen, not everybody's going to want to buy a Chevy. Not everybody's
2%. Right. Back to the math. 2% of the market. And most of them aren't going to want to buy what you sell.
Right. And
but
so
you still have to have a relationship with them. You still don't want them to try. So that when Matt's sitting at the bar asking, when it's not Matt, when it is someone new who just moved to the area, right? That customer who's trashing you, they may have never even been to your dealership, but they heard something from their aunt who had a bad experience one time. And now they're the walking, talking version of that billboard versus somebody who may not have had an exposure, but the only thing they ever see or hear is this. Hey, I hear great things about Team Chevy. Hear great things about Team Auto Group. I've never bought anything there, but I see, right? Because now you've filled in the space where there would otherwise be a void for someone else to insert an opinion, and that becomes their opinion. You can influence that opinion with a big old billboard that says, something funny like, "When everything you've hit just about everything except for the lottery." Matt, this has, I think, been the most complete conversation for automotive, for outdoor. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Thanks, Tim. It's always great to catch up.
Always great to catch up. If you have found this episode to be helpful, educational, inspirational, motivational, any of those things, please share it with somebody else who you think who could, words are hard, who could benefit. Share it with somebody who could benefit. As always, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, and we'll see y'all next time.
Quarter century, I finally came to my senses. I finally got my hand up on the tinted Benz, kid. I see the world clear through my tinted lenses. With the dream and the drive, the possibilities endless. Now print that, send this all the way to Tokyo. Take a trip down south, down to Mexico. Next stop, Shanghai, the world-class trade show. First class all the way, cause that's how we roll. Yeah, call us the rock star businessman. Rockin' shows, we handle business, man. We got our own future in the palm of our hands, cause divided we